What are those?
He's coming back for that 2021 MVP. He's better than Josh Allen. He's better than Baker Mayfield. He's not better than Mahomes. I can't say that.
Well, Justin Tucker gives him his 99 rating in Madden.
Ceiling is the roof. There is no roof, so they have a pretty high ceiling.
The SAT or the ACT? let's really see how.
That's enough talk. Let's talk. Celebrate for a day and then get on your way, Texas, because this schedule is not letting up anytime soon with Saturday's upcoming matchup against Baylor in Waco. ESPN's matchup predictor gives the Horns just a 26% chance of beating the Bears, but advanced metrics can't measure momentum, which will surely be on Texas's side. So, to our panel, who do you see coming out on top in this State of Texas Shooty Hoops showdown? And on this one, we're starting with Carter.
Well, I just talked about Courtney Ramey and his perimeter defense, and I think they're going to need him again this week against Baylor. Baylor has 4 guys, all guards in the backcourt, who are scoring at double-digit figures. And I think Ramey, while he's not going to be on the offensive end as much, they really need him on the defensive side because Baylor is second in the Big 12 in scoring offense and is also leading the league in three-point field goal percentage. I'm also looking forward to see how Texas handles a hostile environment. We talked about Tech earlier. Tech was probably the most hostile they're going to see all season, probably in Chris Beard's tenure because it's the first game back. And frankly, Texas looked rattled in that game. They went down 43-29 in the first half, were throwing away passes. And I think that's going to prepare them for going to Baylor this week and going to Waco this weekend. I look for Texas to keep it close, but I think Baylor's going to have the upper hand on this one.
You know, that's a good point. That game, Texas versus Texas Tech in Lubbock, honestly shades of an earlier Texas football game this season. You remember how hostile the environment was when that young team went into Arkansas, into Fayetteville, a fan base who still hates them? Similar, especially for a team like Texas basketball, which is also maybe not fair, like as young, but inexperienced playing with each other. So, John, we're going to move on to you next.
You know, I think it's all about the mentality of this team. Obviously, they got defeated. They looked a little shaky in that Texas Tech game. But they've had some key victories over the past week since that Texas Tech game. And I think that combined with they've been in that hostile environment, they've seen how bad it can get. But now they're able to recoup, rebuild their forces, get these key victories. And I think they're going to go into Waco tomorrow, or whatever the game is, I don't remember what day it was, and get the dub.
You know, they say failure is one of life's greatest teachers, and that is true. But 8,000 screaming Lubbock people is an even better teacher for a young basketball team. That is a great growing experience for the team, as just abysmal as it seemed at the time. Jackson, you're going to finish.
So I think this game hopefully should be much closer than it was on our 2 previous contests against Baylor. But I think the matchup to watch, I think, is Timmy Allen and Christian Bishop against, I don't know how to say his name, so I'm going to say Jonathan Double T's. It is not a secret that Texas has struggled getting offensive rebounds and defensive rebounds for that matter. Baylor is one of the best teams in the Big 12 at getting rebounds, getting second chance opportunities. That's why they're so good on offense. So I think Texas has to take advantage, has to get Jonathan Double T's out of the paint, and they also have to take advantage of the turnovers that Baylor creates. They're second in the Big 12 with, I think, over 17 turnovers per game. Texas is one of the best teams at getting turnovers. So I think Texas needs to have those momentum swinging plays and keep Baylor's offense keep them cold.
You know, you bring up a good point about the offensive rebounding. That is something that we are on record talking about on this show way back when they were playing mid-majors before the conference part of the schedule started. You know, so if you're struggling to dominate Houston Baptist at rebounding, that's going to rear its head in conference play, and that is something that we have seen throughout. So Jackson, for all that, you are getting the 3 on this one. Carter, you'll be getting the 2, and John, the 1. Moving ahead now, Texas softball is coming into the regular season with a lot of hype and a ranking of number 8 in the country. Similar to our discussion about the baseball team last week, we're wondering if the team will be able to live up to the hype, and there's a very simple metric to measure that. So, give it to me straight, panelists. Will Longhorns finish better or worse than their current number 8 spot by the time the end of the season comes around? And on this one, we're starting with John.
To be honest, I think number 8 is a great spot. I think in a previous ranking, they were also number 10. In the Big 12 preseason rankings, they're put at 3rd. You know, they got a couple key hitters in Mary Iacopo and Janae Jefferson. But, you know, when it comes to the Big 12 at least, there's always Oklahoma. And looking at their performance last year and one of their preseason games this year, I just don't see Texas softball being better than 8th, definitely. But I feel like being 8, 9, 10, around that range is a fair ranking for Texas.
So you'd say firm answer, will not finish top 8. We're looking, gotcha, understood, bummer.
Maybe top 10.
That would still be a successful season, and the Big 12, you know, softball is very serious in the Big 12, and the shadow of Oklahoma's program always looms large. It's a very real threat. Jaxon, we're going to move on to you on this one.
So I don't think they will finish better than top 10 or top 8, but I think they'll get really close. I think the problem is they're just too young. Lauren Burke and Janae Jefferson are the two senior leaders on this team. The rest of the team is, you know, a majority sophomores. So this is a group that's going to come in that does not really have a lot of starting experience, but I think as the season moves on, they'll progress, they'll be better. I think I would say getting out of the regional or getting into the second round would be, I think, a realistic goal for Texas, but I don't know if, you know, getting to the College World Series is in the cards this year.
Absolutely, and you know, there's nothing to be ashamed of getting to a regional, especially getting out of it. It's just the pressure that number 8 ranking puts on. And now, Carter, the pressure is on you, because you are going to be answering next.
Well, I'm going to differ from both my panelists here and say that Texas will finish above the 8th ranking this year. Look, we talk about the senior leaders, Lauren Burke and Janae Jefferson, and those might be some of the only seniors they got. Well, that's a pretty damn combination. Janae Jefferson is probably the best player that Texas has had. She is the career leader in hits and on base percentage, if I'm not mistaken. She was also one of 2 unanimous selections to the All Big 12 preseason team. And she is also hunting down for the NCAA hits record this year, which she's bound to hit. Also, Mike White, we know he came from Oregon, brought 5 Oregon players when he came a couple years back. He's attacked the transfer portal once again. He calls it his deepest and most complete team he's had yet. Capped off on the transfer portal by Haley Dulcini, who's a Fresno State pitcher who went 22-5 last year and was the Mountain West Conference Pitcher of the Year with a 1.12 ERA. He also got Lou Gilbert, who was the left fielder on Baylor and led the team in batting average with, I believe, a .327 batting average. Pair Haley Dulcini with Shaylin O'Leary, who is the incumbent pitcher and was the ace for Texas. That's a scary group, and I think Texas will finish above 8th.
Excellent. 3 questions, 3 very informed and detailed answers from Carter, and for that, you're going to get the 3 points once again. John and Jaxon, you guys are actually going to tie for the 2. Really quickly, I want it on record that in case any of the women's softball players are watching right now, Jaxon and John think you guys are overrated and that you're overhyped and that you're nothing. Carter and I are cool, though. We're going to watch you in the World Series. Can't wait. That said, we've got to cut to commercial, but when we get back, we'll be discussing the NBA trade deadline and giving hot takes for Sunday's big game. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire. Before we get started, though, let's take a look at the scoreboard. In first place, we've got Carter, the rookie, with 8 points. Coming up in second, we've got Jaxon with 6. And then in third, we've got John with 5. Very tight game all around and a lot of game left. The NBA trade deadline is rapidly approaching, but some major deals have already been made across the league. As with talent transactions in any sport, there are savvy front offices, and then there are marked general managers begging to get fleeced. So, in the interest of not stealing anyone's answer, I'm going to get straight to the point. Who are the biggest winners and the biggest losers of trade season so far? On this one, we're starting with Jaxon.
I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the New Orleans Pelicans just simply because they got C.J. McCollum for what's basically a second-round pick. I mean, he's a phenomenal player, a true number 2, and can even be a number 1 for rebuilding Pelican squad. And they really didn't have to give that much up. Yes, you gave away, I think, Justin Holiday and Jeremy Lamb, but the guy you're getting back and for the price you're getting him, I think is just, you know, too enticing to say, yeah, they did pretty good.
I think it's a clear example of getting more than you give and wanting what you got with the Pelicans. So very strong answer there. Carter, can you match that?
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers as my winner of the trade deadline so far for getting Karis LeVert, who is a proven scorer, and they can add that to their young roster with former Texas center Jarrett Allen. I think Karis LeVert is a guy that can come in and be a veteran leader and a proven scorer, like I said, on this Cavaliers team who's been a surprise this season. And pair him with Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen, as I mentioned. And they've got a recipe for a great team. And people are asking, is Karis LeVert going to be the next great Cleveland player with a "le" prefix in his name?
Excellent answers all around. I love talking about the sneaky good Cavaliers this year. But speaking of proven scorers and locker room leaders, John, we're on to you next.
It's terrible that you press that with this, because you're going to love my answer. I'm going to abstain from the question because I think it's flawed from the beginning. You know, I think we have to see how these teams react and adjust to having these new players before we make any decisions on whether or not they were good or not.
So John conscientiously objects to the question. Fair enough, but I don't give points for protest. So Carter and Jaxon, you guys have actually tied for the 3 on this one.
All right.
John, I don't know what 0 or 1 for John objecting to the question.
A half?
I mean,
How about a half?
0? Sorry, John. I left it up to them,
All right.
and they have given you 0. It is that time of year again, and we're just 4 days away from the most American holiday of them all. So take a back seat, 4th of July, because Super Bowl Sunday is coming up. Now, we did our traditional pick'em last week on the show, so tonight I want to hear your boldest predictions and hot takes for the big game in Los Angeles. And on this one, we're starting with Carter.
My bold prediction for the Super Bowl this Sunday is that Aaron Donald will be the Super Bowl MVP. Look, a lot has been made about Joe Burrow and how great he has been this postseason, and it's all well-deserved, but it's been in spite of the Cincinnati Bengals O-line. They've given up the most sacks this season. Joe Burrow, I should say, has been sacked the most amount of times. I believe Cincinnati Bengals are like 3rd in sacks given up. And the Rams' defensive line is ferocious. Of the 3 quarterbacks they have played this postseason, all 3 of them had faced the 3rd highest pressure rate or higher in their careers. So think about that with Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and Leonard Floyd all coming after them. I think Aaron Donald's going to tear up the interior of the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line and take home Super Bowl MVP.
I'm a real sucker for non-skill position players winning the MVP, so that is a prediction I would like to see come true. John, we're on to you next.
I think Harambe should win the MVP.
bold take.
Speaking of bold takes, I don't have a football bold take.
Really? I don't want to...
This halftime show, so star-studded, I think it's going to suck. I think there are too many big personalities. I think they're all going to clash. I just think it's not going to rank as one of the best. I still think last year's was the best. But when it comes to the teams on the field, I think it'll play out exactly how we expect. I don't think the LA home field advantage will be too much of an issue. I think the Bengals have got it in the bag. We'll see Joey Burrow lit up a cigar.
Yeah, I mean, what home field advantage, you know,
Exactly.
for LA? Absolutely. I agree. You know, the Super Bowl halftime show sounds pretty good on paper, but too many cooks in the kitchen for me. I'm glad someone was brave enough to finally say it. Jaxon, we're on to you next.
All right, so I have a question. If you're trying to get your name more exposed, if let's say you're trying to get on a Sports Center, let's say on the TikTok, not the TV, what's the easiest way to do it? Go streak on the biggest stage in the world. I think there are going to be multiple streakers at the Super Bowl, all with GoPro cameras trying to get on, not just national TV, not just the video board, but just all over the world.
So we moved on to rapid fire vibes a little early, but great answers all around. And actually, believe it or not, we came into another tie. All 3 of you are getting the 3 on this one. There was just, I know, Carter, part of me wanted to give you the 3 for giving a football-related answer, but I also like to laugh, and the other 2 are pretty funny. And I hope they come true. We've got to take another break, but when we come back, it'll be for all the marbles, because up next is rapid fire. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire, and I hope our panel's ready to think on their toes, because it's time for rapid fire, which of course means it's anyone's game. Well, folks, looks like Jim Harbaugh is going to be a Michigan man for the foreseeable future, though it doesn't seem like it was entirely his choice, as he's publicly stated that he had been feeling an itch to win a Super Bowl and admitted that he simply was more interested in the Vikings than they were in him. Very relatable, Jim. Valentine's Day is coming up, everybody. It's also come out that his interview with Minnesota took a whopping 9 hours, and he still didn't get the job. Harbaugh's a coach known for his quirks and his tendency to put his foot in his mouth, so naturally, we're asking y'all to speculate on where it all went wrong for old Jim and what he did to get left swiped by the Vikings. Anyone can jump in.
Well, we all know that Jim Harbaugh, a former quarterback, is a hyper competitor. Where I think it went wrong for him is he had the front office staff of the Minnesota Vikings, go run routes on the practice field and throw to a bunch of middle-aged men who don't want to run anymore. I think he threw some routes on air for about maybe an hour and wouldn't let those guys leave, peppering their hands. I think that's where it all went wrong for him.
He's got to be the kind of guy who like throws it as hard as he can, even for like a casual like route run, because I guess nothing's casual with Jim Harbaugh.
Nothing.
Can't do that in the NFL. Jackson and John, who wants to jump in?
You know what I think would happen? Is at the end of the interview, they were all set up. He was going to be the new head coach of the Vikings. And they're like, as a formality, let's go through your head coaching record. From front to back. So we start, college football playoff appearance, Big Ten championship. And then you start going, lost to Iowa State. Ohio State.
Every other
Lost
time.
to Ohio State. Lost to Ohio State.
Lost to Michigan State, too, just for fun.
Absolutely. Go Spartans. And by the end of that list, John Harbaugh was so heated that he went Hulk on them, flipped the table, walked out, and walked all the way back to Ann Arbor.
Well, he is a very intense man, so I wouldn't put it past him. Jackson?
I think recently the NFL media deals have caused a big money craze around the league. So many teams are getting their own specials. The Colts got Hard Knocks. The Denver Broncos did their own documentary on doing their own head coach. I think they were filming a TV special, frankly. And who knows, they might have had so many special guests. They could have Giannis, maybe a hologram of Prince on there. Think about it. So there's no way you can't sit in an interview for 9 hours and not have anything media-wise to come out of it.
Excellent takes all around. I hope it was filmed. I'd love to see it. Carter, you're going to be getting the 2 on this one, all said. And we'll be moving on to our next question. Don't worry, everybody. 2 more questions to go. 4 points left up for grabs. Florida State basketball walk-on Harrison Prado? Marcus will correct me later. Took advantage of his chance at seeing the court for playtime, putting up a double-double with 13 points and 13 rebounds in the Seminoles' recent game against Wake Forest, earning himself a nickname, the Weatherman. This shows that a remarkable story can earn a nickname all the same as a remarkable career. So, let us know, what is your favorite nickname for a relatively small-time player across any sport? Anyone can jump in.
I think this is the easy answer. Brian Scalabrine, the White Mamba.
That's what I said when we were writing this.
The Woat. He averaged, 4 points a game, but every time he scored points, dude, you never expected it coming. He's just like a snake.
4 points a game in his prime, maybe. Anyone else?
Well, I don't know how I'm going to come back from the White Mamba, but I will say that there was a running back in the day for the Kansas City Chiefs, Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare, which I always thought was a very cool nickname. He might be a little too big time for this question. I believe he was actually pretty good, but that's always the name that pops in my head when I think of cool nicknames.
It's a cool enough nickname that I think we can consider him the line, for like notable enough for this answer. John, on to you next.
I'm going to have to go, it's not a real player, but
Good start.
MLB The Show, my personal Road to the Show character, Big Daddy Boomer. Shattered the single-season home run record year after year, retired after 3 seasons, didn't make the Hall of Fame. Somehow.
If I could be so bold, what happened? Why did he just lose his passion for the game?
Steroids?
Ooh, steroid standal for, what was his nickname again? Was it
Big Daddy Boomer.
Big Daddy Boomer. Now, if Big Daddy Boomer was real, you'd be getting the 2 on this one easily. But, I mean, as soon as Jackson said invoked the name of the White Mamba, I hope he's watching out there somewhere. I knew the 2 could not possibly be going
Texas softball.
to anyone else.
The White Mamba. Watchers of course.
On to our last rapid-fire question for the day. Last week, we did the NFL a great service, pro bono, might I add, and gave them many potential solutions to their questionable overtime rules. But another problem has reared its head last Sunday. The worst all-star game in American sports, the NFL Pro Bowl. If you like flag football and pads, then this is the game for you, but we think they can do better. So, panel, let us know. How would you fix All-Star Weekend in the NFL? But just like last week, we are looking for wrong answers only. Anyone can jump in.
I think, obviously, not to go back to baseball again, but baseball, less contact sport. But the All-Star game in baseball, I don't know if it still currently does, but it used to have ramifications of who had more games in the World Series. whether it was the
There's some stakes in
American
play,
League or National League. So I think implementing something like that with the Pro Bowl, I mean, obviously, because the game is so physical and the game itself isn't worth much, we still probably won't see the physicality of a normal football game. But I think adding some kind of postseason stakes to the Pro Bowl would make it more enticing for viewers and more enticing for the players.
Yeah, they don't have to go all out or anything, but I mean, like, I feel like it was worse than ever this year. Every play either went for a touchdown or like got like walked out of bounds. So anything to make it a little spicier than that. Who else wants to jump in?
I think I'm going to go with the double forward pass. And what's even better is you could do it from anywhere on the field. So Aaron Rodgers, if you want to throw a 70-yard bomb to Jaxon Jefferson and then just have him pitch it over the top to, let's say, an offensive lineman in the end zone, why can't you do that? I mean, the stakes cannot be any lower for the game. No one's really trying to kill each other out on the field. Why not just have some fun where you can just sling the pigskin around wherever you want?
Absolutely.
So it's just a game of Pee-wee.
Look, these are obviously the best players in the NFL. They know who the best coaches are. What I think is the guys like the Pro Bowl also get to pick 6 coaches of their choosing to also play with them. Imagine if we had Andy Reid and Mike McCarthy playing in the Pro Bowl alongside the best in the NFL.
See, I was thinking kickers play quarterbacks, but I like that even better. Seeing Andy Reid put on the uniform again, that would make me watch. That'd make me glued to my TV. And Carter, that answer is going to make you tonight's winner because you're getting the points and the win. And we do have time for FaceTime. Carter, take it away.
Well, again, extremely honored to be on here for my first time on College Crossfire. I've obviously been very happy with all the people I've met here so far, and I'm really looking forward to continuing working. I'm sorry I really didn't have much planned to say for this because I frankly
He's too gracious, everybody.
did not expect this, but I'm very thankful.
Excellent work. Carter is still our Mr. 1000 in terms of games won. Carter, we hope to have you back on next week to go 2-0, hopefully. So, congrats to Carter, and thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode of College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. There's a TikTok also there somewhere. I don't know if anyone's posted in a while. Lastly, be sure to wake up with the 1-0 Sports Show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. And now that there's not a freeze going on, it should be airing. For all the panelists and everyone in studio and Master Control, I'm Drew Jacob. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy the Super Bowl. Go Bengals. Go Shiesty.